But today we're taking a break, and we have a very special guest that I want to introduce to you. His name is Eshcar Kapoya. Eshcar, do you want to just say a couple words and greet everybody this morning? He was our guide, our tour guide this past 2018 in March in Israel, and first time he's visiting the States. And we're pleased to have him as our guest this morning. So say hello to everybody if you would.
Well, it was nice to see everyone. Hi. I'm very excited to be here, of course, as Dave mentioned. My first time to the United States, all in all, in America, all in all, across the great pond in the middle. So very exciting. It's like cultural research that I need, when I'm hosting you back in Israel to understand where you're coming from. So part of that, I was talking with Dave, and we coordinated, let's have a talk with the people. And I'm very glad to be here. Very happy to see all your faces. Thank you for the warm welcome.
When we first met Eshcar in March of 2018, there's a process in setting up a tour of Israel, and one of the biggest things that we want to do is have a good guide who's going to take us through the land. And, the last time that we were in Israel, before we were touring with Eshcar, we had a good guide, but he wasn't available this next time. And so we were looking and searching for a good guide, and Eshcar was, if we told you the whole story, it would just blow you away, because he was about ready to get on another flight to travel when he got the call that we had a tour that we're interested in hiring him. And so it was just the Lord, right, that was just orchestrating the steps. And one of the things that Eshcar has shared with us is that every tour that he does is like a divine appointment. He really believes that God puts us together, and we believe that God put us together. The first thing that I said to Eshcar when I saw him is, you look just like my best friend in high school. And it kind of just knit our hearts together, because we just, knit. The love of Christ just kind of just made us a family together. And it's been a blessing, not just touring with him, but getting to know him and staying in contact with him through the months, because it's only been a few months and we already feel like close-knit brothers. But I want to show you, as we talk about not just Israel, but Eshcar here, I want to just show you a couple slides. So if you could run the slides of Eshcar and his wife, Natasha, who, let me just go back to the Jerusalem slide, because the song that you just heard when we were sitting up here is the song that they play right as we're approaching in our tour bus for the first time the city of Jerusalem. And so they play that song, and it's kind of like building up the anticipation to being in the city of Jerusalem for the first time. And when you get a glimpse of the dome and the walls and the old city, it just a lot of people are just weeping and crying, because we read about it in the scriptures. And we read about all the events in the Bible that happen there. But when you see it with your own eyes, and you hear the noises and the sounds of the people speaking in the Hebrew language and different languages, it just is something that is unforgettable. And one of the things that we did with Eshcar that not a lot of people do is, the first time that we get into the city of Jerusalem, is you could see the top of the wall in the front there, is we walk on top of the walls all over around the old city of Jerusalem. And it gives you a beautiful glimpse of the whole old city of Jerusalem before we begin to tour the old city. And when we were up there last time, we got stuck. And can you tell us, Eshcar, about remember the sound that we got stuck right in front of one of the Muslim prayer speakers, and tell us what happens throughout the day. How often does that speaker blare and the blast, and talk about maybe the blending of the population with the Muslim and the Jews that are there in the population.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things when you come to Israel is to first time, yeah, this sound that you hear. So the mosques, for instance, I don't know why is it.
He's trying to fix it.
Yeah, right. The sound of the mosque was actually our first greeting when we came, and we were just standing above the Damascus gate, and it was a bit late in the evening, and they somehow closed it, and we coordinated. It was a special experience to feel actually this, and the call for the prayer, the muaddin, as it's called, is played 5 times a day in Jerusalem and in Arab cities across the land. As Israel, Jerusalem is not only for Christians, of course, not only for the Jews, but also for the Muslims. And the main picture that you see usually when you see Jerusalem is that you see the Dome of the Rock, and became a symbol. The rock is, of course, the rock of foundation. And the whole story starts and supposed to end there. And as we said, tomorrow Chaim will be talking about, Rabbi Chaim, about the Temple Institute and the plans for the third temple. So still is, if we're going to Israel in the center, Jerusalem in the center of Israel, and this rock with this, the dome of the rock, this monument up there, to remind us the story is an ongoing story. Which is the reason why you, I guess, want to come to Israel, is to connect to that story. Yeah.
And you don't want to share all the stories because you want those folks to join us in Israel.
Good thing you mentioned.
And we have a tour in 2020, and Eshcar will be our guide once again in 2020. So, so Eshcar met about a little over 3 years ago.
We got married 2 years ago.
Yeah, you met over 3 years ago.
Over 3 years ago.
But you've been married now for 3 years to a beautiful Russian redhead named Natasha. And so,
True.
Lord willing, the next time Eshcar comes to the States, he'll bring his lovely bride. But this time it's just Eshcar, and kind of preparing the land and letting her know where you want to visit again, like
there's a lot to see here.
Colorado Springs, Garden of the Gods. He was there this past week, and now Fort Collins. And he'll be going south again to the Springs, and then New Mexico, and then hopefully California at the end, and then taking the trip back from LA back to Tel Aviv.
Just checking the ground before we come together. Yeah. I want also to greet Natasha, and I'm sure she's joining us on Facebook Live right now. So without her love and support, actually, she's been very supportive of this journey, and she knows somehow I need to go to this alone now for different reasons. But she's been very supportive, very loving, and through all my journey and our joint journey, even if we go apart sometimes. So, yeah, it's nice to see her.
And I'm sure she's probably saying the same thing if she's watching Facebook Live.
She's getting all red now, I know.
Hi, Natasha. So it was interesting. It was a blessing because on our trip, we discovered that Eshcar was going to have a birthday during our trip. And so he turned 30 on our birthday. And we have in our church somebody who many of you know is a gifted rapper, hip-hop, and, rhymes. And so he blessed Eshcar with a special birthday rap. And I've asked him at the end of our service today to share another rap that he's written for Eshcar in his trip to the States for the first time. And so we'll be blessed by that in a moment. So Eshcar, can you tell us how long you've been a guide, and maybe kind of your, what led you to want to be a tour guide, and then also maybe what you were doing before that? And I know there's some education that you were doing at is it the Hebrew University? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then also, if you could go into from there, as we talked about earlier, your favorite part of being a guide and what you see in the tourists' faces, every time, as you could share some of that.
So then story begins actually after military. In Israel, military is mandatory. And after 3 years in the Air Force, skip. I've been just looking around and not feeling very affiliated into anything. So I went for a world country, country-to-country tour in Europe, actually trying to figure out and look at the people as what they're doing and try to see what fits me. And I was really in Lord's mercy on that way. I was literally hitchhiking from country to country without no plan. And it's been really, this is the story, went really just for a year before I decided I want to return to Israel. When I came back, the only thing, the only thing that I found interesting is, and my question was to understand the story, actually. And in Israel, to become a tour guide, there is a tour guide course. It takes 2 years when they take you from the time of Abram, or even before that, and all the way till, well, Bibi, Netanyahu. And telling basically the story. So my question was, what's the story? What's going on here? And the course is amazing, and you go on tours in Israel, like 90-day tours all around Israel. You'll be coming for maybe 10 days. So we did 90-day tours, full days in Israel, accompanied by lectures of the history, of the geology, of the botanics, and the geography of the land, and different religions. Now, as I grew up in Israel, I grew up in a Jewish home, not religious, but a Jewish home. And you don't get to hear anything about Jesus. And it was only during the course that I actually the first time had to open the New Testament and get acquainted with it. And first thing was, well, this is a great man, actually. He's a great man. First of all, just reading the story. And this shed a lot of light on the people that I met in Europe, actually, Christians who helped me along my journey. And it was the first time that I got to know Jesus, but still during the course I was, want to get the whole picture, the whole story. And after 2 years, I realized, that there was my question was, like, how did we get from, these stones into these tablets? Yeah? How did this all happen? And I got my answers. Okay, during this course, they kind of spread out and laid it out for me. So now I can dive in wherever I want to get deeper. Yeah. And it was only after the course I started guiding, at the beginning Israelis, but the second I started guiding pilgrims for the first time, and I saw their eyes, and I connected through them, telling them the stories, I connected to the reality that is behind it.
And let me just interject regarding the pilgrims.
Yes.
That would be us, the
that
tours
would be
that
you.
are coming back
yes.
to, yeah.
Yes.
So what did you see in the eyes? Like,
I saw, Christian pilgrims. So the first thing was, first of all, to many experiences, God showed me, it's like, no, this is where you need to focus. This is the audience. And it brought me, for me, is every pilgrimage of Christian pilgrims coming is also a pilgrimage for me. It's always going deeper. Yeah. And when I tell the stories, at the beginning I used to read, before all my summaries and everything, planning what I'm going to say in this side, where I'm going to stand, and where I'm going to point at. And little by little, it was very exhausting, first of all. And second of all, I just saw that this is not the point. The stories are all there already. It's all back there. I just need to connect it to the story, the big story, actually. And it was really then through pilgrim's eyes when I talked, and I felt this is not only me talking here. It is not really me, and only me. And through the pilgrim's eyes, and through the reactions, and through the people that came on the tours, and the understandings that you shared with me, and they shared with me, I realized that this is a very big story. And this is, for me, also people ask me, so when did you come to Jesus? I say, I always come to Jesus. It is a journey, an ongoing journey. for me as it is, I believe, for us. And so when pilgrims comes to Israel and we want to hear the story, just last group I had a bishop, been so for many years in the late 60s and so. She said, I came as an unbeliever. I want to be reconvinced. And she got just that. It was, and so every journey, it says appointed, divinely appointed, is really for that reason. And as you go through Israel, you see boring guides with boring groups. And you see guides with flare in their eyes, with a glare that just, and the people are following with them. And it's a real journey. And so for me, this is it. Yeah. And it was, as I said, I was not really, I was not looking for Jesus. It was just Jesus found me. And I was just looking for the story of what's going on here. And this makes this so, then every pilgrimage, every group I got is very special. And what we had together was a birthday gift for me, including a song. Was incredible. It still is.
Can you share from the Bible where your name comes from and what your name means?
Yeah. My name is a very uncommon name. You will not hear it probably anywhere. Eshcar appears only once in the Bible, in the book of Psalm 72. And the verse is about, basically means the gifts. The gifts of the kings of Sheba and Seba will carry gifts, presents. So this is where my names come from. And so this is why also in the song of Big Bread, I've been, it's called gift because it was really a gift for me, also as it is a gift for the pilgrims. And I can say that there are many guides who are non-believers, but they recite the things and they can, get the reaction. But for me, it is, much more than a job. Real gift, real gift.
Amen. Awesome. So I know that you put on Facebook recently and asked some of the people that you've guided, like what they received in a tour from Israel. And do you remember, or can you share some of the things? I know for me, I shared with you that each time that I go back to Israel, it's kind of like a tell, and maybe you could express and explain to us what a tell is. But there are various locations that are civilizations that have once been in the past, but then they got destroyed, and then instead of clearing it out, they built over that city, and eventually it becomes a mound. And for me, my experience in Israel is like another layer on that mound. Each time that I go, it's another layer, new experiences. And, I always tell when I come back that, it's like a second home to me. There's not a time that I don't want to be in the city because of the experiences. And every time we go, even if I've been there before, there's always something new and fresh that's maybe being undug in that location, or a new location to go to that's being undug, because there's so much biblical history there.
Yes.
And I know we've talked about, maybe you could share some of the experiences that you hear, and I know you've heard some from our group that share with you what they received, but maybe you could share that and then head into also some of the favorite sites and the places for you on the tour that you like to go to.
Yeah, so of course many different people, many different stories, all coming to connect to the one big story. So each one comes in many ways. People come with a question and they get an answer. And for each one it's like a highlight. You don't know when it will come. And as we walk, as we talk, and maybe something just happening in the street that is like, suddenly they understand something. It connects it to the people. And what you say about the second home is something I hear from many pastors, especially because pastors, returns with the group, and they say, America is my home, but Israel is my spiritual home. And it's something that, it doesn't matter how much I will talk about it. In a way, when you go there, when you walk the land, when you see the places, when you get the dimensions, and when you get how everything is connected. And we asked about highlights. So people have highlights, of course, when they are being baptized or reconfirm their baptism in Israel, or when they go first time to see Jerusalem, because you don't know what this energy means when you stand there and this rushes to you and you realize, yes, this is what I read about all my life. So I think the number one, like when I was going through Facebook, the comments right now, is the main thing was people saying the Bible came to life. It is a story that I grew up. I saw the pictures, I saw the films, but suddenly you come to Israel and, hey, it's green here. It's not only gray like in the films. And there are a lot of different colors there. It is more complicated than we realized. We used to stand from above and from abroad. Also, I can say, Americans are like this and that, but I know I've been to Colorado Springs, I've been to Fort Collins, and I already feel differences, And I know that I would feel like that when I travel to the States, as you do too. So when you come to Israel, it's first this small little country, and just now I know that I'm going to drive to California and I'll be seeing a lot of signs and a lot of places on the map. I say, I need to come back here with Natasha. But you will come to Israel and suddenly see, wow, okay, there's a lot more than I thought. Yeah. Your itinerary seems like, just a few sites a day, but each site is a whole story, a big story. And so through my experience also working with pilgrims, I try to kind of emphasize and go into what is the most important thing here. What can we gain from it? Okay, there's a lot of things, beautiful buildings, nature and everything, but to bring it into an understanding of something that we, like these aha moments that people go through as they come, because I believe all of us, we've been reading the Bible since we were children. We saw all the pictures, we read all the stories. And to be there, as I say, it's something you people come, and I'm sure you've been talking with some of your friends, I'm talking to the ones who didn't come yet, and the friends who did come, they're telling you, it was amazing, or it was, which one gives it in his own words, and you don't really get it once you're there. You suddenly, this is the first aha moment when you come and say, this is what they talk about. And you talk about the tells. Yeah, the tell is in Israel, as it was a connection point, a central point in the ancient world between Egypt and Mesopotamia. So many of the cities that were destroyed and resettled. So there were no bulldozers, but they made it as straight as they could and built on top of that. And then it was destroyed, and on top of that. And then you really, when you come and you see the whole layers of civilization, dating back like some 5,000 years back, if you go to Megiddo, and 5,000 years back, and you look at this and say, wow, this is where it started. And he came, and there's another step, and suddenly we stand on top, and we say, now it's us, and what's, connecting to the story, what's going on here. And for me, like, if you ask about my favorite places in Israel, one of the things that people ask me is like, okay, you showed us all the tales, a lot of Old Testament material that you have here, and you pointed it out on the way, but is there a proof of the New Testament? And I say, wait till we get to Capernaum. Yeah, wait till we get to Capernaum. And where you can find, well, I'm not going to say exactly what you can find there. No spoilers. But this was an aha moment for me in the course. Yeah? When I was reading about Jesus and about the stories of Capernaum. So when I come there and I look at this, I say, okay, this really connected me there. So for me, every time I go there, it's like I can lead my members of the group through my imagination, because, coming back to all these places every time, I get my imagination of what happened there, and the feeling of, and it's of course connected to the stones, to the facts, to the archaeology. We bring back in the research with the geology, with the animals that were there. Everything is somehow connected, and this is how we, I feel it really as a, as an apostle. Yeah, like I need to connect this story for you people. Yeah. And so Capernaum would be a big highlight. Would people see? I love, for me it's a highlight to see your faces. Like with people's first time when they come to Jerusalem, I cannot but be excited every time, all over again. it is a spiritual journey. That sea, of course, when you see, is incredible. En Gedi, when you see it, can you imagine where David was when he ran from Saul?
Sea of Galilee.
Sea of Galilee,
We
of
take a
course.
boat ride.
When you take the boat ride, and again, I see it. For me, the highlight is actually the pilgrims, and see them how connect, and through these pilgrimages that and again, I do this as my job. I do this a few times a year, at the very least, 1,000 times. And every time it's really exciting, because also for me, it's like every time I'm studying getting deeper, you know. And we talked about new sites, so maybe today my highlight of the journey can be Magdala. And Magdala, where Mary Magdalene came from, is not mentioned in the Bible specifically, but it is mentioned in her name. And it was a central city on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and it's been excavated only in the last 10 years, in the last decade. It's a new thing. And what they found there, the synagogue that they found there from the time of Jesus, and the market that is there, where you can see where the fishermen sold their fish, is just remarkable. So also for me, in the course, I didn't study on it even. Only later I had to go there and see it. It's just they opened it now. So because there's abundance of so many things that are in Israel, you come and you say, what they don't know now, maybe they'll know next time you come. Maybe, next time they go to the deeper layer, understanding would get deeper. And so, yes, so many things.
Sites.
So many things. It's very exciting.
And for me, I know the first time that I went, there were times where, like you said, the Bible just opens up to you, and you come to that realization that, especially on the southern steps of the temple, for me, it was one of the places where I wept, because I realized that on these steps that we're sitting on, Jesus walked up those steps, and they're still there. The picture that we showed a little while ago of a mountain where it had a beautiful view, you could see the Sea of Galilee in the background. That mountain is called Mount Arbel, and it's believed to be traditionally one of the places where Jesus often went to pray, and the place possibly where he prayed all night before he selected the 12 disciples. And then on the other side of that mountain is kind of like just a flat area where he could have did the Sermon on the Plain, not the Sermon on the Mount. That's Mount Beatitude, but the Sermon on the Plain. And so that spot was real special to me too. Just
it was a special morning when we went there together. It was just only us, and Joshua played the guitar.
With worship, we're worshiping up there with the guitar, and Josh is, playing for us. Josh is. Usually we try to do worship at the various sites, and those moments could be really just special. On the boat ride of the Sea of Galilee is really special. And then at the Garden Tomb, we partake of communion at the Garden Tomb, and before we go to the tomb, about a stone's throw away is Mount Golgotha, or Mount Calvary, the place of the skull, and you could still kind of see on the mountainside the face of a skull, on the mountain, which is why they nicknamed it that. And we go there and see that, and then we come and we go into the tomb, the Garden Tomb, and we become witnesses of his resurrection, because he's not there anymore. And it's beautiful. So, those are special places that we love. I mean, just being on the Sea of Galilee, where the disciples spent a lot of their time fishing or crossing the boat to go to the other side as Jesus was, ministering at the various cities. And then, I can't help but think of the picture of the storm on the Sea of Galilee when Jesus wasn't with the disciples in the boat, but he came walking on the water. And that's just a beautiful picture. And the first time that I was there, the wind was really strong. There were actually windsurfers on the Sea of Galilee, going through, and so you could realize that, how could a big storm come here, and hit this area? But the way the geography there is, with the mountains and the hills all around, it's easy to see, and then to witness it there, the wind could pick up in a moment's time and do that. So
this is when the Bible really comes to life. And
it comes to life,
and moments that you cannot plan, but it's many times and along the trail, it's like something happens. You get the Bible in your, you know, it just really comes to life. I say this is for many pilgrims coming. It's just the experience of seeing the place. Like many people ask me, so is this the side where he stood, or is he stood there? It's like one of the things that very fast you understand, no, it's not about where he stood. It's about, first of all, the people that he was attending to, about the landscape that he was walking on. And you get to connect to that as we are traveling from the Sea of Galilee all the way up to Caesarea Philippi, like to get you know, what kind of gates of hate is he talking about? You know, the gates of hell also. It's just not, you know, it's, you stop looking for it, you say, it's with me actually. It was with me all this time, bringing me here.
Yeah. One of the great things on our tour, and we are going to do on all our tours from this point out, is they have something that's called the Whisperer. And because sometimes it could get real populated at some tourist sites, and you have a bunch of noises and various things, and you could tell Eshcar, he's a really low talker, you know. And you know me, I could get loud, right? But what we have is everybody on the tour has ears and that connect to a little, you know, hearing device. So whoever is teaching, or when Eshcar's telling us about the archaeology, the history of certain locations, it goes right into our ear, and it made the tour so much better, because sometimes we're looking around and we're not really, our eyes aren't fixed on what, you know, what's coming out of Eshcar's mouth, but our ears can be. And then some of the teachers are teaching, and sometimes we have to whisper because there's so many people around. But we could even whisper, and everybody could hear it, you know, clearly. So that's the blessing of the whisper, and we're going to use that the next time. And it was a great thing to have on this tour.
It's one of the things, you know, before I became a guide, I don't know about you, but when I came into a city, I just started walking around and taking some brochures and taking a map and looking for the places and, you know, walking around Paris, London, doesn't matter. But the one thing about Israel is that once you have a guide, it's really, it enhances all the experience. It gives you the overview, first of all, and you can talk to me on tour, by the way, and ask me questions. And I'll be happy to answer questions also afterwards, doing some fellowship. Is once you have a guide and he's in your ear and kind of connecting everything, and some people even record it and can listen to it later, keeping journals, because, you know, people will tell you before you come to Israel, well, enjoy your vacation. You'll be smiling and saying, it is not a vacation, it is a commitment. And this is, for me, I take very seriously when people come, invest their money, invest their time, coming to Israel to follow the footsteps of Jesus, to follow the footsteps of history that led up to Jesus, and from Jesus to today. To understand the story, you need to clear up time in your schedule. You know, this is such a central theme in your life. You take 10 days, you invest the money, and you come to Israel because you want to connect to the story. And I take it as it's my burden. It's I need to supply also. First thing I saw, I said, you guys don't have whisperers, you better get whisperers, right? And it enhances the whole experience. And when you come to Israel, you say, okay, you know, some people say, you know, organized tours, that's not for me and everything, and I understand that. And I had some people who said, you know, I thought it is not, but when I came and I experienced it, I said, okay, next time I could come alone, but if I didn't have this experience, if I didn't have this congregation also, this family to go and share, and we make evenings, right, where people share some devotions, whoever wants, it is strengthening. It is, we can share the understandings together. It is an experience like no other. We say pilgrimage, it includes so much, actually. in this world to come and walk and take the time. And I
a
don't
lot
go,
of walking.
A lot of walking. it's
not
easy.
really a vacation where you're just kicking it and
Afterwards, you
sitting on
take
the
a
beach.
vacation. Yeah. Afterwards, you'll need a vacation. No, you take a few days. Afterwards, you need to relax, jet lag and everything. I know the journey now. It is a journey. But it is what you gain from it. And this is what people, go back to what people write me, is like, since then, every day, my wife and I, we talk about Israel, about this experience. We read the Bible, and we suddenly, we share. There's something that is like, it stays with you. It's not like the vacation. I've been to Spain for a week, and I don't remember all the places. I remember like a moment here, a moment there. It's a whole experience. There's so many moments there. This is why I tell people, keep a journal. Yeah. It is, I say it's a theme in our life. Jesus is our theme. We come to the church. It enhances everything. It just opens up to experience the Bible in a new way. Yeah.
And so one of the questions that we always get is it safe in Israel? And we know here, even in the States, in Pittsburgh, they just, somebody went into a synagogue and shot up some of the people.
Yes.
And, it's not just Jewish synagogues, but even churches, all across America. And we know, we see it on the news, and even in our own state here, violence is everywhere. And you're going to LA, where I kind of grew up. And
I need a bullet press.
There's some neighborhoods, call me if you want to know what neighborhoods not to go into. And a lot of those neighborhoods are more dangerous than being in Israel.
Yeah.
But maybe you could talk to us, first of all, about the military, for how it's a requirement for guys and gals, and then talk about the military presence in Israel and how it is kind of like a safety thing where, when you have cops around all the time, you feel safe, if there's a threat or anything. And one of the beautiful things about the military in Israel is they're everywhere, and they're carrying their rifles, and they don't mess around when it comes to any type of disturbance or terrorist activity, that could go on. So
should
talk
I show
about
my
that.
scars first?
Say again?
Scars.
Scars?
No.
We each
it's
get
funny,
a bulletproof vest, right?
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
You get helmets when you go out of the airport. It's very safe. No, I joke because I live there, all my life. Mm-hmm. And I live about 30 minutes drive from Gaza, okay? Mm-hmm. My parents do now, which I hope they're also listening. Hi, parents. And I grew up there. And I also heard the news, and it was scary for me to hear what's going on around me. But I never actually had feeling of it. When there is a time of war and there is an operation in Israel, even at that time, there are still people living there. Mm-hmm. I lived there also during an operation, also when there were different wars. I was also serving in the military, and which I'll mention in a second, but people live there day to day. I think the amount of tourists that were ever injured or ever anything happened to is really, I don't know, maybe on one hand, maybe you can count on two hands, or maybe on one hand, I don't think, not something that is happening. Now, first of all, I have to say, before I came to the States, I was afraid. You don't have, I know the news that I hear, and I came also from the airport. I had the transfer in New York, and I was looking at the news. I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? And shops are being smashed, and there was some pursuit going on, and different things that you hear about in the news all the time. So one of the things, that's just a friendly recommendation, maybe to lay off the news a bit, because you hear about the fake news, it's also about news that wants to terrorize, and especially about what's going on in Israel. Mm-hmm. Every little thing that happens, it sounds so big, but somebody got stabbed in Jerusalem. I don't know how many people got stabbed in New York at the same day, but nobody heard about it, right? Or maybe a few. If it was a celebrity, it happens a lot. And in Jerusalem, whenever it happens is then when you hear about it, but they make such an item out of it that it is, and I look at it and I say, oh, poor people, they live abroad, they have no idea. And at the same day I'm guiding, and we don't feel anything, actually. I was just had a couple coming with me in May, and we were traveling around the Golan Heights. On that day, we were supposed to travel to the Golan Heights, and people were starting calling my tourists, asking, "Are you okay? Are you safe?" He's like, "Why? What's going on?" It's like we're having a good time here in nature, just by down by the slopes of the Golan Heights. And apparently, the same day there was something going around the border. Now, it's first of all, Syria is on the other side of the border, and even on that moment, then I also always get notified. I'm always connected to other tour guides and the agencies. Something I called my agent and asked, "Is there a problem?" I said, "No." I said, "Okay," and we were going around all day, and we didn't feel it actually. And if something does happen, they say, there will be a military there. I say, you just don't go there. I say, okay. And for people coming from outside who are not used to that, I can understand it can be feeling threatening or scary. But for us, first of all, this is life, and I have no scars, by the way. I was just joking. My military service, I did 3 years. It is mandatory, as I mentioned. And it was, first of all, gets you a different perspective completely. All people in Israel, let's say not all, but most of the Jews in Israel are serving in the military. 2 years for girls, by the way. So even girls. Yeah.
And it's mandatory.
And it's mandatory.
At 18 years old?
18 years old after
all the
high
girls,
school.
2 years, and the guys 3 years.
The guys 3
in the
years.
military. Yeah.
And after that, you also serve in the reserves, and there's something that is going on. And when you go home, soldiers go home, they carry the rifle with them. So there are like soldiers everywhere, usually, even if not stationed, but they are stationed also in places that are supposed to be dangerous. They'll always be stationed there. And this is where you feel very safe, I have to say. And guys, when I talk to others, they say it is very, very safe. And people come, and at the end of the tour, I ask them, "So, did you feel it?" I say, "Oh, we forgot if we even were scared to come here at the beginning, because you just don't feel it. You really don't feel it." And one more thing is, tourism is rising in Israel. In the last years, we break records. We talk about more than 4 million visitors a year in a country that's the size of New Jersey. It's like half of the population. Depends how you count it. But it's about half of the population in tourism. One of the things is also you'll come, you notice that your driver will most probably be an Arab. And the hotel staff is most probably Arabs. And when you go to restaurants, it will be served by Arabs, and they will be cooking for you. And they're just all around. And you suddenly see, "Oh, I thought you guys are not talking to one another." It's like, we work together, and everybody also gained from tourism, so there's a big interest to keep the tourists safe. And you see it many times. You come, and one of the funny things is people ask me, "Is this guy a Jew or an Arab?" You're not sure even, because they also look very similar. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people here that you wouldn't know if they're Jew or Arab, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
I put a hijab on
blue
one of
eyes, green-eyed Jews and Arabs, so it's very interesting. But you could see a picture of the tour bus that takes us around, all our luggage underneath, and it's bulletproof. No, it isn't. But it's Wi-Fi capable, and every
less
hotel,
important.
every hotel, we talked about the hotel staff, and sometimes our bus drivers are Arab or Jew, we don't know, or they're working together. But we talked about it not being a vacation, but we do get spoiled in the bus. Comfortable buses where you could take a nap if you want to, and then at the hotels. One of the things that we get blessed by is every morning there's a huge buffet breakfast of everything that you can think of.
And every dinner.
And then dinner, when we come back to the hotel, there's another, group of stuff that we could eat for dinner, buffet, all you can eat. And usually we're on the road for lunch, and we go to, amazing places for lunch as well. So, and then when you come back home and you wake up the first time that you're back in the States, we're like, man, where's my buffet breakfast that I'm used to for 10 days being on the road? And so you probably gain a couple pounds on this tour.
You lose them while walking.
What's that?
You lose them by walking.
Lose it by walking, yeah. And, this is
No, we don't.
Josh Peck floating in the Dead Sea. If you've never, if you're not aware, our first night in Israel, we're on the Mediterranean Sea, and then eventually we go down to the Dead Sea. If we would go even further south, we'd go to the Red Sea. Mm-hmm. So you have the Med, the Dead, and the Red.
And the Sea of
And then,
Galilee.
of course, there's the Sea of Galilee. Yeah. There's the Jordan River. One of my favorite places in the north is the Banyas Falls, a great waterfall inspired by Psalm 42. And that's the way it looked. And it's just the noise of that waterfall. You have to pretty much shout or talk loud because the noise of the waterfall and the mist there gets you all wet. But it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. Read Psalm 42, and if you're on the tour with us, we read it as we're there. But in closing, for those of you that never have been to Israel, we're going again, as you heard in the announcements, in November of 2019. We support missionaries that have a home in Jerusalem, and we're going to be staying with them, which is why the mission trip is a lot cheaper than the tour, because we're not going to stay in hotels. We're staying with our missionaries, and we're going to various locations to serve the people of Israel, beautifying the beaches or the parks, picking up trash, or building lunches for homeless in Jerusalem, or Arab Jews, whatever. And so we're going to serve. But then in 2020 with Eshcar, we're going to join with him again, and also an extra excursion to Petra, which we've never been to. Eshcar has, and
also very safe. By the way. I was afraid when I first time went to Jordan. But I was surprised. Very safe. They have good guides. Yeah. So rest assured, and it's just gorgeous. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And we have the brochures if anybody's interested as you walk out for our tour in 2020. But I want to leave some time for our rap artist, Taylor Bickford, who's planned and prepared something special for all of us, and especially for you. So Taylor, if you can come at this time, we'll close with this. And Josh, you're going to do another song for us at the end? So we'll have a time of worship. But Taylor, why don't you share with us?
Just the word.
And maybe, Eshcar, you want to say some final words?
Some final words. First of all, I will have some final words. But if somebody wants to come and ask a question, I'll just say hello. And remember my face, I'll be there. And then I'll be very pleased. And there are many more subjects that I'm sure you are interested. I also have some business cards if somebody wants to email me. Facebook, of course. WhatsApp, iMessage, you name it. You will be very welcome to do so, and maybe get a deeper understanding of what you're going for. So thank you for having me here. And thank you for your listening, and hope to see you next time in Israel.
Thanks, Eshcar. Appreciate it, bro. So before you play the beat, I just want to say how blessed we were with Eshcar. I never want another tour guide again. This dude was awesome. It was actually cool. Jamie and I weren't even going to go to Israel, and then 2 weeks before, the Lord was like, nah, dog, you're going. And I was just like, all right. So, and then we hit up our agent, or, the agent we have, and I was like, is it too late to go? And he's just like, let me check. And he's like, we got 2 seats. And he's like, all right, that's cool. Me and my wife, let's go. So it was really cool. And then I was actually freestyling one of the days, and Eshcar was like, dude, you rap? And I was like, yeah, dude, you like rap? And he's like, dude, yeah. And his birthday was, I think, the next day. And so then I was like, dude, I'll write you a birthday rap. And he was supposed to make me a beat. It never happened. It's fine. But the night before, I just, wrote it in a couple hours and then just performed it the next day. And just like this rap, because that was called The Gift, because that's what his name means, The Gift. But this rap right here, we were talking last night at our potluck, and Dave's like, hey, how about write a new one? And I was like, all right, how about Gift Part 2, Welcome to America? So I didn't write it last night. I was too tired, so I went to bed, worked a 12-hour shift. But I woke up this morning and wrote it, and here we go. And I don't have it memorized because I just wrote it, so I'm going to read it and rap it at the same time. So here we go. Let's do it. Yo, turn that up, bro. Yo, this beat is inspired by Israel. It's made by an Israel producer, I think, because it kind of sounds like it, but I don't know. But yo, Eshcar, check it out, bro. Gift Part 2. You ready? Yeah. It's a Calvary Chapel, rolling with Eshcar. He's a leader and we ride in the Death Star. But no Darth Vader, he's crusader, warrior for Jesus. There was no greater, name of the heaven, check it. Here is a lesson I'll tell every neighbor, talking to people about the Creator. Yo, E, you got me if you need a translator. Here in America, in Colorado, we got the Rocky Mountains, oil, corn, wheat, and cattle. Bang, bang, we got the Second Amendment. So if you want to go shooting after this, let's get stepping. Do you like chicken? Let's go to Chick-fil-A. But Sunday is our Sabbath, so it is closed today. Put your shekels in the box we call agape, and go to Starbucks and get a pumpkin spice latte. I'm just messing, you didn't like the coffee. I can understand why, cause Starbucks is not me. Israel coffee, it is so awesome. I mean, he doesn't like coffee grounds all at the bottom. So let's see, what can we bring the table? Oh, how about Buffalo Wild Wings? You had the hottest one, you're like, it ain't nothing. Have you had angels cooking, bro? Now that's something. Colorado Springs, you've been to Estes Park? That's cool, but have you been to Walmart? They have every single kind of cereal, and it's way better than cereal in Israel. I'm not hating, I'm just showing America's pride. So let me know if you tour guide. You come here for your first time, but what do? You come to Colorado. That means a lot, dude. But there's one thing that I don't understand. You got a rental car that's a brand from Japan? Why not a Chevy or a Ford or a Dodge? How about a Jeep? Something American, bro. I'm out.
I will bow before the cross, cherish my Redeemer's cause. There is nothing I can do, but only stand amazed by you, and mercy new with every day, wrapped up in your arms of grace. Nothing more